As an aspiring screenwriter, I found the premise of HBO's Hacks intriguing. An older comedian pairing up with an outcast screenwriter sounded like it would be worth checking out. It ended up being an amazing show and all but guarantees that Jean Smart will win an award, be it for Hacks or Mayor of Easttown. This isn't to discredit Hannah Einbinder, who also delivered a stellar performance as Ava, but the story is the thing here. The actresses had incredible material to work with that helped bring Deborah and Ava to life. The pair of comedy writers who refused to find each other funny at first developed into one of the best character-driven stories I've seen all year, while still retaining the laughs from the skewed, even dark relationship between the protagonists. Relationships, professional, personal, and romantic, are the heart of Hacks and are what this episode of Tears and Rain will focus on. Primarily how a lack of healthy interpersonal relationships creates a void around us that impacts our lives on all levels. Let's start with the pilot episode that establishes how, and more importantly why, our two protagonists lack healthy relationships. The pilot doesn't give away every detail, but it shows us a lot, including the impact these unhealthy lifestyles have on Ava and Deborah. Beginning with Ava, her blunt personality and entitlement prevents her from building healthy professional relationships. She also lacks healthy interpersonal relationships for similar reasons, but we'll get to that later. At the beginning of the story, Ava is desperate for work, but unable to swallow her own ego to try and get it. All she wants is to be in a writer's room. She doesn't care how or why, she just wants it, and she wants it now. Because of this, when her agent Jimmy proposes that she works for Deborah, Ava shoots him down.
I'm not gonna go write knock-knock jokes about how men don't put the toilet seat down. I'm not that desperate.
Ava's also self-centered and opportunistic. She views the other industry people around her as either a way up the ladder or weight holding her down. The pilot shows this when Ava interrupts an acquaintance's lunch with her mother to try and weasel her way into a writer's room. Externally, the heart of Ava's problem is a stupid joke she told on her last show that got her blacklisted. Her pride prevents her from apologizing. Instead, she's indignant that Hollywood isn't splitting their sides at her mighty comedic sense. Ava's entitlement and ego prevent her from forming functional professional relationships in the film industry, an industry built on the collaboration between many passionate and skilled individuals. On the flip side of Ava's far too open, bring everybody in and give them everything approach to life, Deborah keeps everybody at a distance. Her home, one of the show's primary locations, is an excellent symbol of this. As a successful Las Vegas comedian, Deborah's earnings have gotten her a humble abode.
Holy shit.
And it's empty. Deborah lives alone. Most of the people we see at the house are Deborah's employees. Her daughter comes from time to time, but is treated as an annoyance at best and unwelcome guest at worst. By filling these halls with nothing but employees, the writers symbolize Deborah's absolute commitment to work. Deborah has a staggering number of shows at the Palmetto Casino. Her main conflict in the show is keeping those dates when the CEO and her friend Marty tries to take them away to give airtime to more modern acts.
It'd be good if you did a few less shows a year.
Good for who?
Deborah's so desperate to keep these dates because work is one of her walls. As long as she's working, always moving, always busy, always going to the next signing or opening or performance, she never has to stop and take stock of the hollow home around her. Of course, neither woman became this way for fun. Both of them created these barriers for a reason. While it manifests in different ways, you can say that Ava's and Deborah's greatest flaw is an inability to form and maintain healthy relationships. Usually a character's flaw won't just be there. Often it's got a source. In her book, Creating Character Arcs, K.M. Wayland says, "Ghost is movie speak for something in your character's past that haunts him. Often, the wound will be something shocking and traumatic. Effectively, the ghost is the source of the flaw. Ava's ghost is unclear, but likely has to do with her family life. She doesn't have a great relationship with her mother, and her relationship with her father is strained after his stroke. We never hear about people in her life pre-LA, which makes sense given her inability to maintain relationships. The people she has met in LA that we're introduced to often have the same failing. Their relationship is deeply skewed by Ava's opportunistic nature. She tries to use them and they refuse. One line that stands out with her mother, Nina, however, is this.
Ava, I told you that business is so unstable. I mean, what's next? You're gonna have to move home here?
It implies that Ava's mother has never been supportive of her career choice. This helps contextualize Ava's ego. If nobody back home supported her, then the only person Ava could find who believed in herself was herself. She just overcompensated. Deborah's ghost is clearer. She fights tooth and nail for her job and dates because her career didn't come easy.
You have to be so much more than good. And even if you're great and lucky, you still have to work really fucking hard. And even that is not enough. You have to scratch and claw and it never fucking ends.
She faced immense obstacles, namely sexism, as she tried to rise through the ranks.
We would have to slide onto the stage with our backs against the wall so he wouldn't grab our asses on the way up.
The real source of Deborah's pain, though, the one that made her put up all these walls to keep people at a distance, was the betrayal of her personal life. Deborah's husband cheated on her and left Deborah for her own sister. The divorce nearly destroyed Deborah's career and left her broke. The public believed Deborah's husband over her, resulting in lies spreading, like the story that Deborah burned down his house. The lie became one of her best gags, and it's through this we can see how the walls were constructed. Her comedy act became both shelter and an act of defiance. At the start of the story, there's little to challenge the two women, but when they come together in the pilot, that sets both of them on the path to change. The relationship between Deborah and Ava starts incredibly toxic. Deborah's got all the power and she holds that over Ava's head with a vengeful grip. The two aren't just opposed in ideology, but opposites from a structural standpoint. Most obviously, there's the age gap. Deborah's quite a bit older than Ava. This is more than a number, as the generational divide sparks plenty of conflict. In the previous clip about the groping of women comedians, Deborah laughs it off as a quirk of how things were, while Ava has a very different reaction.
I know it was like the time and everything, but I'm just mad for you.
Well, if I'm not upset about it, you shouldn't be.
Their careers are also in opposite places. Ava's getting started while Deborah's career nears its end. This difference in success also creates a massive wealth and class gap between the two comedians. Ultimately, these gaps and differences, backed by unyielding wills, are enough to make Ava and Deborah change and grow as people. They do this by tearing through each other's defenses. Ava's blunt honesty hammers through Deborah's walls, while Deborah's emotional distance humbles Ava. Over time, for the first time, the pair develops a healthy, personal relationship.
Honestly, my closest relationship right now is with your mom.
The final episodes of the season show how the characters have changed. For Ava, we get two parts to the change towards the end of the season. She receives an opportunity to interview for a spot in a British comedy writing room. Ava learns the producers of the show want to bring her on board because of her relationship with Deborah.
Oh, I've got stories. There is so much about Vegas people don't know.
Oh, no, we meant about your boss.
This is a major turning point for Ava. She's presented with what she's desired from the pilot, a seat in the writer's room. She just needs to use Deborah to get there, as we've seen her attempt to do throughout the show. Back in the pilot, Ava would have had no issues sending Deborah down the river to advance her career, but she refuses here. Ava proves her change by valuing her relationship with Deborah over her television career. Deborah changes as well, which is shown throughout her comedy act. After the walls break down between them, Deborah and Ava put together a new act for Deborah's final show. Instead of her normal jokes, the same jokes that she's been successfully telling for years and years, Deborah's going to be honest.
I'm gonna tell you
why I told those jokes.
Deborah takes down the walls she's built, not just opening to Ava, but an entire audience. Deborah lets them all in, lets her work take second billing to herself, and she bombs. Her final show goes terribly, but she got what she needed. To return to Wayland's book on what a character wants versus needs, the thing your character wants will almost always be something external to solve his inner emptiness, but the thing your character needs usually won't be something physical. It will usually be nothing more than a realization. Ava and Deborah wanted the same thing, a successful career. By the end of the story, however, they realized that what they needed was a healthy, stable relationship. Of course, the season ends with Ava setting herself up for failure, but that's a story for another season and another video. For now, I want to focus on that key idea of healthy relationships. It took a while, but once they got there, Ava and Deborah found themselves more fulfilled than ever. Ava's got steady work, even if it's not on TV. Deborah gets to be herself and maybe even start healing from her past trauma. All this is only possible through the relationship the two forge. The biggest takeaway from Hacks is nobody can exist alone. Everybody needs healthy, supportive relationships around them. You can still succeed if you lack this, but it'll be an empty, hollow success without anyone to share it with.